The Summerwind Mansion. Formerly known as the Lamont Mansion, it is located off South Helen Creek Road, in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. The mansion was erected in 1918. Originally the location was home to the West Bay Lake Fishing Lodge, a bed and breakfast. The 80-acre property was bought in 1916 by U.S. Secretary of Commerce Robert Patterson Lamont, who renovated the lodge into a house with servants' quarters added. The secluded home was difficult to reach at the time due to bad road conditions. For the Lamont family, the hauntings began almost immediately. Lamont servants claimed to have seen a transparent lady wandering around the driveway of the estate, but Lamont dismissed their reports. He and his wife were eating dinner on the main level one evening when they heard the cellar door rattle. Mr. Lamont, armed with a gun, walked downstairs to investigate. He said he saw a ghostly figure of a man and fired 2 rounds in response. The Lamonts, shaken by this, departed the property after this occurrence, never to return, and it remained abandoned for decades. Mr. Lamont died in 1948, and the home remained in the family. Mr. and Mrs. Kiefer bought the mansion after it had been sold multiple times. Mrs. Kiefer said she didn't feel comfortable in the house and began to suspect it was haunted. She abruptly fled the mansion, abandoning all of her possessions. She told her neighbors that they may take whatever they wanted from the mansion, but she would not be held liable if anything unpleasant happened to them. The Hinshaws acquired the home from the Kiefers in 1969, and moved in with their 6 children. They were only there for 6 months. The Hinshaws claimed to have seen a ghost of a lady floating back and forth beyond the dining room's French doors, and to have seen indistinct figures and shadows flashing around the corridors, and to have heard garbled conversations in vacant rooms, and that the sounds would stop when they walked about the home. Because some of the windows were supposedly opening by themselves, Arnold nailed them shut. Before a serviceman arrived, 2 appliances, a hot water heater and a water pump, would break down and then operate again. During renovations, a human skull with black hair was supposedly discovered in the crawlspace. Arnold had a nervous breakdown and was hospitalized within 6 months, while his wife Ginger pondered suicide. She and her children subsequently relocated to Granton to live with her parents. The property was repurchased by the Kiefer family, who then sold it to Raymond von Bauber. Workers claimed that some of their tools would disappear and return at other areas. When Mr. von Bauber began remodeling the estate to convert it to a bed and breakfast, the rooms would also alter length and width on a regular basis, causing the renovations to come to a halt. 2 adolescent girls were kayaking near the mansion, when they noticed a woman in white waving them to shore. As a storm threatened, they docked their boat and followed her to the mansion. The lady dematerialized once she was inside the home. Both of the females were terrified and fled. The girls resolved to track down the lady in white later that summer, and return to the estate. They noticed the lady, but this time she waved them away. The girls made the decision to avoid approaching the residence. They later discovered that a servant at the home was threatening individuals with violence. This assertion was made by an elderly lady in her final years of life. The house was next purchased by Harold Tracy in 1986, as a wedding anniversary gift to his wife. When Life magazine classified the house as one of the top 9 most horrifying locations in the United States in November 1980, the popularity of the home as a paranormal site skyrocketed. The mansion burnt to the ground on June 19, 1988. According to local media, the fire was started by lightning. The fire marshal wrote to the neighbors, informing them that the property had been declared hazardous, and would be burnt by the fire department. Only 2 of the 3 towering chimneys, the foundation, the basement, the stone arches facing the lake, and the stairways leading to the mansion's main entrance are still standing today. The Grand Opera House in Oshkosh, constructed in 1883 by local architect William Waters, is Wisconsin's oldest functioning theatrical structure. Its magnificent auditorium and balcony offered capacity for 921 people at one time. Chairs have been reduced to 668 throughout the years, but the superb acoustics and red velvet seating with marble fireplaces remain. The Grand Opera House was lit with electric lights in 1885, replacing the gas lights. During the 1890s and early 1900s, Oshkosh was a thriving metropolis. During rehearsals, performers have observed groups of entities sitting in the crowd applauding their efforts. The chairs in which these ghostly theater goers sat had been lowered. One of the ghost patrons had to meet one of the actors, and was waiting for him in the actor's dressing area, according to reports. This gentleman ghost was dressed in period theater garb, and clutching a playbill from a play that was staged around the turn of the century. A film class from the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh was shooting a film inside the Grand in 1967. A complete realistic apparition of a man with little round glasses standing in the balcony, smiling at them, was spotted by several of the students. It was believed to be Percy Keene, who had a passion for the arts in a big way. He had been a stage manager and involved with this theater from 1895 through 1967. They were able to accurately characterize Percy Keene's appearance. The student assistant who was dangling above the stage during a student performance was stopped from plummeting by an entity holding a broken rope together. Percy Keene, who is always willing to help, is supposed to be the entity. A happy supporting presence of Percy was observed standing in the balcony at a preliminary showing of a student film. Once in the orchestra pit, a lifelike man stood. Several members of the theatrical crew had seen him. This ghost passed via the orchestra pit entrance, which is where musicians enter and exit. There was no one in this chamber behind the door when the set design crew went to check. It was far too quickly for this individual to exit the room if it was a real person. Some paranormal investigators were taken back by a glowing vision that moved over the stage. Once when a production's executive director was resting in the theater alone, he witnessed a vaporous orange mist glide over the stage. Some ghosts are captivated by electricity, thus lights have switched on and off on their own. People at the theater have reported strange temperature fluctuations. Footsteps may be heard ascending the stairwell to the balcony, but no one is seen. During one of their performances, the Drama Lab Thespian Company heard slamming doors and footsteps. Strange mysterious sounds have been detected within the Grand Opera House. The Cherney Hotel, also known as the Maribel Caves Hotel. The hotel, which is located on County Road R, in Maribel, Wisconsin. It was erected in 1900 by Austrian immigrant Charles Steinbrecher, and was named after the neighboring Maribel limestone caverns. The inn had a rounded tower in the southwest corner, an arching front, and walls gilded with magnificent limestone from one of Steinbrecher's kilns, evoking numerous old world structures. The hotel, which is reminiscent of Western European medieval castle ruins, began as a medicinal hotel and spa, where the weary and worn could be invigorated. The hotel became a popular rest stop for many traveling Americans throughout the early 1900s, due to its unique position, which was adjacent to both a natural spring and the railroad that traveled through Maribel. In reality, infamous gangsters and bootleggers like John Dillinger and Al Capone are reported to have been among the attendees. Given that the Maribel Caves Hotel also served as a spring water bottling facility, with carbonizing machinery, it's easy to see why they were drawn to the place. In 1981, the facility reopened as a hotel under the ownership of Jeff Miller. Miller had little luck because the hotel had developed a reputation for being haunted by furious ghosts at that time. The structure was then destroyed in a fire large enough to reduce it to its limestone rubble in 1985. The decaying castle was dubbed Hotel Hell in the years that followed. Bone-chilling stories have surrounded the location since it was destroyed and abandoned. Many others claim to have seen a guy looming in various windows throughout the structure, always gazing out. Visitors have also reported feeling icy hands rubbed against their backs when walking around the remains alone. Voices and shrieks have been heard coming from the basement and caves below. Others claim that stones and other items move independently. There have also been sightings of a young girl dressed in a black dress, as well as blood on the walls, screaming and overwhelming negative sensations coming from the basement, and the stench of sewage gas in the restrooms. Witnesses claim that a stack of books has burst in ghostly flames at least once. At the same spot, an odd sound of singing has been heard. Near the stables, a phantom vehicle drawn by white horses has also been seen. It has also been said that black witches performed a ceremony that opened a portal to hell in the front yard fountain. The hellish demons haunted the town of Maribel until a white witch sealed the portal. The Pfister Hotel. Located at 424 East Wisconsin Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is Milwaukee's only 4-star full-service hotel with luxury accommodations. The hotel, a $1.5 million Grand Hotel of the West, was constructed in 1893 by Charles Pfister. Since then, it's been the best place to stay in Milwaukee's downtown area. It continues to serve guests from all over the world today, according to its history of elegant style and exquisite service. The hotel was bought by Ben Marcus during a time of decline in the late 1950s and early 1960s, and he was determined to restore it to its former splendor. Renovations lasted several years, and several major additions were completed, including a new 23-story guest room tower. When professional baseball and basketball teams come to town, they stay at this historical monument in Milwaukee. When Major League Baseball players stayed at the hotel, they claimed a broad range of paranormal phenomena. Adrian Beltre, a player with the Los Angeles Dodgers, told Sports Illustrated that he heard knocking on his door and in the corridor. He walked outside to look for someone, but there was no one there. Later, he saw the air conditioning and televisions turning on and off on their own. He was awoken by thumping noises coming from behind his headboard while he was asleep. He was so terrified that he carried a bat to bed with him as protection. During his 3-night stay, he barely got 2 hours of sleep. Carlos Gomez, a Minnesota Twins baseball star, had a strange encounter the day before a big game. He heard unidentified voices before seeing his iPod turn on by itself. The iPod suddenly began to vibrate erratically, almost crashing to the floor. When the iPod started doing the same thing again, he put it back on the table, and it changed songs. He raced out of the room and into the lobby before putting his pants on. "I'm scared to go there," he said. "They should change the hotel." When the Cardinals were in town one night, Carlos Martinez and Marcell Ozuna both claimed to have seen a ghost. "We are in Milwaukee," Martinez said in Spanish, on an Instagram video. "I just saw a ghost." In Ozuna's room, he saw another one. "We are all here, are all in Francisco Pena's room. We are all stuck here, we're going to sleep together. If the ghost shows again, we are all going to fight together." The 2015 MVP award winner, Bryce Harper, is perhaps the biggest name to have come forward with a spooky tale, also sharing it with ESPN the magazine. While staying in the Pfister in 2012, Harper had laid out his shirt and pants on a table by the end of the bed before going to sleep for the night. "When I woke up in the morning, I swear on everything, the clothes were on the floor and the table was on the opposite side of the room against the wall. I was so flustered. I honestly thought there might be someone in my room. I had no idea what the hell just happened, so I actually looked around, and then I checked to see if the door was still latched, and it was." Several visitors have claimed seeing the ghost of an old gentleman, considered to be the soul of the hotel's founder, Charles Pfister, strolling the corridors, in addition to the numerous accounts of malicious activities and electrical malfunctions. Charles' friendly entity keeps a welcoming but watchful eye on the living, ensuring that his guests are well taken care of by the hotel staff. The entity is this good-natured portly gent has been spotted standing on the hotel's grand staircase, observing the lobby and watching the living go about their business. His ghost has also been spotted roaming around the Minstrels Gallery, which is located above the ballroom. Pfister's ghost has been observed on the 9th floor as well. Charles's spirit, it appears, is still exercising his dogs in spirit. Dog-like animal creatures have been heard frolicking in the corridors. The Redlaw Plaza Hotel. Located in Fond du Lac, Walter Schroeder, the owner, designed the hotel, which opened in 1922. Walter chose his own name reversed as the name for the new hotel, giving it an interesting name. The National Park Service has listed the structure on the National Register of Historic Places. Before becoming the sophisticated hotel that it is now, the hotel was sold and transformed into a mental facility and a nursing home. The hotel is said to have subterranean tunnels leading to cellars where gangsters used to gather. The underground tunnels connected the hotel to two speakeasy operations across the street. In that hotel, Schroeder was shot and killed. Some staff had weird occurrences throughout the years, most of them while it was a Ramada in the 1990s and 2000s, when the historic structure was exhibiting its age, leading them to assume he was still there. They blamed it on Walter, from beyond the grave, when a few dollars went missing from the till, when supplies were suddenly pushed off a house-cleaning cart, when lights flickered, or when televisions unexpectedly changed stations, typically to C-SPAN. The majority of paranormal events occur in room 717. Screams have been reported emanating from that room by hotel guests, as well as employees. The hotel employees attempted but failed to open the door. The screams persisted, and the door began to move, as if kicked from the inside. The room was empty when they were eventually able to unlock it. Hair has been pulled out of guests who have stayed in the room. The turning on and off of lights and faucets, as well as hammering on the walls. Captain's Walk Winery. Located in Green Bay, the home was built in 1857 by a man named Elisha Morrow for his wife and 6 daughters. He was an early Wisconsin political organizer, and one of the delegates that helped Abraham Lincoln get selected as a presidential candidate in 1860. Helen Morrow, the second youngest of Morrow's children, received the house after her father died. Helen couldn't afford to maintain the property and was forced to sell it to the Green Bay Women's Club in 1920. The mansion changed hands 4 more times before Brad and Eric Schmeling bought it in 2006, and transformed it into Captain's Walk Winery. Helen is thought to be the one who still haunts the building. The owners said, she moves and throws wine glasses, turns on the radio, runs the freight elevator up and down, and turns on the sink faucets. The first reports of paranormal activity in the home date from the late 1970s, when it was converted into a souvenir shop. After that, the owners stated they saw a woman standing at the top of the stairs and sensed a terrible presence. Helen may have been dissatisfied with the way they remodeled her home and regretted having to sell it. Helen is well known in the area, according to the proprietors of Captain's Walk. The brothers spent the night at the house while it was being restored. They said they heard a small girl bouncing a ball running about, and giggling on the second level that night, but they were unable to find anyone. The brothers claimed that they never spent another night there again. Helen's presence seemed to be more at ease when the renovations were completed, but it was the only time they spent the night there. Most likely because she was pleased with the work they had done on her last residence. Helen, on the other hand, continues to wander the home. A book will occasionally fly off the shelf, and a wine glass may occasionally fly out of the dishwasher. After a time, they had to deactivate the faucets because they suspected Helen of turning them on frequently. Often this entity appears in person wearing a white Victorian gown. The final employee getting ready to lock up a night, sometimes hears a female running around upstairs, giggling late at night after closing and cleaning up. The Green Bay YMCA. Built in 1924 and located at Pine and Jefferson, the YMCA has stood as a beacon for men, for help and to encourage. Eric Vogliati resided on the 5th floor there in 1987. He was one of the numerous young guys who participated in the resident program that was available at the time. This was a program that assisted men in regaining their footing. The rent was modified to reflect the income they received from their work. According to rumors, Eric was not well liked by the other residents. He kept to himself for the most part, and had been living there for a month without finding work. You had to acquire a job within the first 2 weeks of residing there, according to the rules. After a long night of drinking, Charles Conrad, 25, and his friend Thomas Mason, 22, returned to the Y on Friday, August 7th. Mason decided to curse Eric in front of the other residents when they spotted him in the TV room. He let him have it, influenced by booze, and told him just what he thought of him. Conrad sought to locate Eric the next morning to apologize for his statements. Unfortunately, he was unable to locate him on that particular day. Conrad and his pal Mason agreed to go out again that night. They returned to the 5th level shortly before midnight this time. Eric was waiting for them, unconcerned about any apologies. Instead, he pulled out a handgun and shot Conrad in the chest, instantly killing him. Mason was then shot in the stomach. He died at St. Vincent Hospital 2 hours later. Eric turned himself in immediately. He was cool and unremorseful. He is presently incarcerated in the Wisconsin correctional system for the rest of his life. Residents began to see Conrad strolling about the fifth-floor corridors and TV room shortly after the deaths. The residence program ceased shortly after, and the YMCA no longer uses the fifth floor. People believe Conrad's ghost returned in search of closure, since he never got the chance to apologize to Eric. So what do you think of these stories? Do you have any to share? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, please like and subscribe.